Hello, witches, and welcome or welcome back to another episode of Spinning the Wheel podcast with me, your host, ephemeral as I may be, Megan Angus. If this is your first time here, welcome in. There's snacks in the lobby. Make yourself comfortable. We're gonna, talk about paganism, witchcraft, astrology, tarot, just the stuff, just basic stuff. Just a loving reminder that none of us are free until we all are free, in case you weren't entirely certain what sort of podcast this was going to be. Yeah, liberation is on the menu. Uh, that's what's up. Ever and always, massive, massive thank yous to all of my patrons, past, present, and future. You all have made and are making this work possible. I've gone through multiple generations of patrons, and it's really cool to think back over the years of all of the amazing people I have worked with, the people that I work with now who are so amazing, and the people in the future who I have yet to meet. And the work that we are going to do together. So thank you so much. If you are delighted and informed by whatever ridiculous bullshit I get up to in this podcast, you can always subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 to leave a tip in my tip jar. Higher amounts get you discounts and free stuff, and even higher amounts get you regular readings with me. So go and check that out. There's information on my website, information on my Patreon, meganangus.com, blah, blah, blah. There's the ad. In theory, you won't hear any other ads during this podcast. I hope. If they're there, I didn't do that, so I apologize. And I'm not getting paid for them, so there you go. But if you cannot donate, if you cannot subscribe to my Patreon, I completely understand, because as I've said many times in the past, life is way, way, way too expensive right now. You can always leave a rating, leave a review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast through. Follow me. Share this on your social medias. Share this with your friends and families and your co-witches. I'm always very flattered when people trust their people with me and my information. That also is really wonderful, good help. So thank you, thank you. Okay. My books have opened, and they are going to be open through the middle of June. I'm going to take just a couple weeks off at the end of June, and then my books are reopen as of July 1st. So get in if you are needing a reading to wrap up your spring work or to overview what we're going to be doing during summer. Reach out. I'm here. Classes are coming. Because no matter what I do, time keeps moving on. And I know that there are more classes in the future, and they are approaching. When? I'm not entirely certain, but I know that they are arriving, and they will be here at the exact time that they should be, including but not limited to, we are going to go back to doing our Wheel of the Year classes as live streams on YouTube. So that will be coming up shortly. And also I will be offering some classes on tarot over the summer and into the fall. You can sign up to my newsletter through my website for more information on all of that stuff. And anything else I want to say? Oh, yeah. If you are attending the festival, Cascadian Midsummer, here in the Pacific Northwest, I will be hosting the Sunday Night Sabbath, and I am very much looking forward to that. So see you around the fire pit. Okay. Let's ground into the energy that we are in. We are in the last weeks of Beltane, and we are in the last weeks of spring energy. The work that we do during Beltane season centers around fertility, virility, fecundity, action, union, and all sorts of initiations into interpersonal mysteries. And I think, during the darker moon portions of that cycle, spirit work, rites of passage, and divination work can be really important for us. Okay. So, in our last podcast, it had been a while, and I really tried to get us grounded into the energy of the season, the Celtic Tree Month, the energies of Beltane itself, all that. You can go back and listen to kind of the first half of that podcast to get kind of grounded and centered into what we're doing. This week, we're just going to talk a little bit about where we are in the lunar cycle. Not just, actually, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. I have a lot of notes for this one. But we are in the waning half Pisces moon in our lunar cycle. So, title of the episode, Beltane season, waning moon in Pisces, lunar week. I still don't know what. I don't know if I'm going to even continue with the lunar week count. But last week I thought it was like lunar week 9. This week I'm like, no, I think it's like lunar week 12 or 13. Forgive me for my inconsistencies. But this is the waning half moon in Pisces. Now the sun has moved into Gemini. Gemini is a mutable sign, and all of our lunar moments as we move through the sign of Gemini are also going to be in mutable signs. So last week we had the full moon in Sagittarius, mutable. This week we have the waning half in Pisces, mutable. Next week we're going to have our new moon in Gemini, mutable. And then last but not least, we will have our waxing half moon in, anybody know it? Virgo, mutable. And all of these moments with the moon and the sun passing through Gemini through these mutable signs are helping us recognize what adjustments we need to make and what things we need to bring to an end to be able to make room for and prepare ourselves for the shift into summer. So all of the work that we are doing in these last days and weeks of Beltane season are really about letting go of our spring body and letting go of our spring mind and our spring energies and making room for and getting ready to embrace and bring in and embody summertime energy, summertime body, summertime vibes, summertime work. And we're going to talk about that more the closer we get to Litha and summer solstice and stuff. But now our job is to be in union and doing all of our Beltane things, but with an eye for the fact that that energy is shifting a little bit. Now, in our waning half moons, well, actually both of our half moons, the waxing and the waning, the half moons are about moments of appraisal where we take a look at our process and we see what needs to happen to make forward progress, or, now on the other side of things, what needs to change going forward, what worked but could work better, what didn't work and needs to be let go of. And so our half moons also assist us with this adjustment. Now, in the half moons, the moon and sun are square to each other, and squares are a tense astro aspect. They are points of friction and points of adjustment. And if we lean in on that stuff, we can get some really good advice from our process, our universe, our self, our, the guides, gods, and guardians that are weighing in on our process. And, sometimes it's a square, right? So sometimes that advice might come in a critical form or a harsh form. But after we get out of our fifis, we can be like, hey, actually, that's really useful information. You could have said it a little nicer, but yes, that's really useful information. And it's up to me now to apply that advice to my situation. So, this moon is ruled by Pisces, this moon is ruled by Neptune, which is the ruling planet of Pisces, which is in Pisces at 29 degrees. And the 29-degree marker has been a thing that astrologers have been talking about a lot over the last couple of years because Pluto has been hanging out around 29, or was hanging out around 29 degrees of Capricorn for quite a while. The 29th degree of any sign is thought of as a pretty intense place where things can feel like they are coming into crisis or coming into a culmination. The energy can be very intense and very thick. And then dialing in on Neptune. Neptune is a planet of nebulousness, haziness, weirdness, dreamy fantasy, and also funky nightmare. It can be difficult to tell what is real and what is illusion in when we're hanging out with Neptune, and it being the ruling planet of Pisces, a lot of that stuff pertains to Pisces too. And some of the words that we think of also when we're thinking of Pisces are words like martyr, words like victim, sickness, illness, death, but also transcendence, the ineffable face of God or goddess. And Pisces is the place in all of us that sort of dissolves into the all, the place where the individual breaks down and sort of meshes with the eternity and the bigness of the universe. Just that, right? Really concrete, wrap your hands around it kind of ideas, right? No. Very nebulous, very hazy, very ephemeral, things that are difficult to put into words sometimes too. So how is it hanging out with the waning half moon in Pisces? This portion of the lunar phase, and in particular this Pisces phase, can actually be a really tough moment for us. And we're going to have this every year, somewhere here in the last 4 weeks of Beltane. So every year we're going to have a waning moon, a waning half moon in Pisces. So we're gonna hang out in this moment yearly. But it's funny because I went back a few years ago and found my notes that I had written previously about other waning half moons in Pisces, just to kind of get a sense of like what was going on. And I found my notes from 2020. Gosh, can anybody think of anything that was going on in May of 2020? Like, God rest the soul of George Floyd, right? That man and the heinous acts that were done to him lit a fire in this country. And, we are only a few years out from the moment, and here we are again, right? And so here's what I wrote. We may have some experiences this week or witness some things in the world that really show us the shittiest side of humanity. Wow. Yup. Apparently, there's something to this magic thing because, holy moly, right? Here we are again. Think of the things that we have seen in Rafah this week, the absolutely horrendous images coming out of Gaza, the absolutely horrifying images coming out of Sudan and Congo and, plenty of other places around the world, right? What's the next thing that I wrote in my notes? In particular, how the illusions of the American dream, capitalism, the West, the patriarchy, the hierarchy, the Piscean era of martyr and victim have become exhausted. Here we are. So this week is a super close look at what is not working with that stuff. And looking at the decaying fabric of your culture can be exhilarating, but it is also horrifying simultaneously. And that's the extremes of Pisces. Exhilaration, absolute bliss to the point of oblivion, and horror, nightmare to the point of oblivion. And I am very much of the mind that part of why we have been allowed to see the images is because of the shock that they induce, in a hope of scaring us away from looking any further, in a hope of shocking us into oblivion, into numbness, into apathy. And so, we diligently have to witness what is happening in the world without losing ourself. This waning moon is widely conjunct Saturn at 18 degrees of Pisces and is square Venus, which is nearly conjunct the sun at 8 degrees of Gemini. And when the moon squares Venus, it's actually pretty lovely. And we want to hang out. But it can get like a little sideways to the point of getting a little possessive. Memories and sentimentality can be really strong, even to the point of ignoring the present. And I saw a meme earlier today that made me think about this, which was, is it just nostalgia? Is it just like enjoying things from the past? Or is it weaponized nostalgia, trapping you in like an artificial adolescence? And I was like, oh my God, get away from me. Why are you attacking me like that? And it really made me think a lot about this transit of like, there is something about going back and listening to those old songs or watching those old movies, but then there's also the oblivion of simpler times, So, however, when Saturn and the moon get together, we can turn inward and want to be alone, or we might be feeling really isolated, and our emotions can actually be pretty difficult to access. Or they might be emotions that we're just like, I don't want to feel that right now. I want to turn away from that. And we might even be feeling guilt or shame around things coming up from the past. And again, surely plenty of us can relate to this in some way on a personal level, but also, the world events, right? It's a little on the nose. So there might be an urgency to engage in unhealthy escapist behaviors. And we know that those can take a bunch of different forms, many of which prop up those aforementioned systems, right? Like shopping, like drinking, like all of it, right? Oblivion. The point is, don't be here. Don't hold the present accountable. Don't send the email to the congressperson. Just wipe out, crash out. So the big medicine here is to find and work with people or wisdom sources who you admire and are inspired by. People whose dedication to doing the work of the world gives you hope. And that might be living people, dead, real, fictional, whatever. Within the framework of Beltane, this is a moment to mourn and to let go of what cannot be brought forward in this cycle. But it's also a moment to mourn and let go of what we refuse to seed, what we refuse to cultivate, and a moment to acknowledge the hard parts of the changes that are required to cultivate the world that we want and the things that we wish we could carry forward, but we can't. It's also a moment to mourn and honor unions that are not working out or coming to an end or radically changing shape in ways that make us feel sad. So, a place where we can approach this work when it feels difficult is to purposefully seek out and work with people or sources who inspire you and give you hope. Engage your sorrow in ways that feel healthy, but also make sure you engage your hope and your joy. So I'm going to say that again. I encourage you, in whatever way is healthy for you, to engage your sorrow. But as a part of that practice, you also gotta go engage your joy and your hope. You have to. It's a two-part gig with that. Okay. Other stuff that I would recommend for this waning Pisces moon, write some poetry. Make some art. That's like one of my all-time favorite things to do on Pisces moon is make art. Take a bath. Chant. Pray. Paint your toenails. And For a journaling exercise, a journaling suggestion, there is an account slash a book that came out at the beginning of this year that I am extraordinarily inspired by, called Black Liturgies, from the author Cole Arthur Riley. And they are a Christian author, so, just beware for folks that are like, absolutely not. But I definitely see them as being a very progressive Christian. Otherwise, I wouldn't be mentioning them on the podcast. Let's be real. And I love every single page of that book. I love every single thing that I have read out of that book. Every single thing. I mean, it has truly been medicine for me. It is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I really love it. It may not be for you, but I really love it, and I recommend it. And this is from their book. This is a question that they have in their book, in a portion that's dealing with the ideas of sorrow. How do you, wow, and I don't know if you could hear that, but there's a military helicopter going over my apartment building right now. I can feel the vibration from the blades. The Empire. Ever present, you motherfuckers. Ever present. How do you distinguish deliberate obliviousness and escapism from rest and repair? That's your homework for the waning Pisces moon if you want a question to start journaling with. How do you distinguish deliberate obliviousness and escapism from rest and repair? Which is vital. Vital, vital, vital. Okay. So we'll talk about our lunar body work and our plant body work towards the end of the podcast. Now I'm going to get into the astrology of this week, more or less, from May 30th through approximately June 5th. May 30th, today, we have Mercury conjunct Uranus, 24 degrees of Taurus. Fantastic transit, very, very quick transit. Mercury is zipping through the sky right now, very quick, little dude. Conjunct Uranus, this is a yearly transit that we're going to have, one a year generally, and great day for writing, great day for calling in energy, great day for calling in ideas, innovation, progressive thinking, new thinking, breakthroughs in research, like all that kind of stuff, breakthroughs in communication, all of that, very, very supportive of that. You get about 24 hours or so of that transit. On June 2nd, we have Jupiter at 2 degrees of Gemini, trine Pluto retrograde at 2 degrees of Aquarius, and this is one of our bigger transits of the year. Jupiter and Pluto are already basically in this trine, and they are going to hang out in aspect to each other at the 2-degree mark for a couple of days, and be within a few degrees of each other for a while, for a week or two or more. Jupiter usually spends about 4 days in each degree, give or take. Jupiter trine Pluto, holy moly. Pull your pants up. Let's go. It's time to get it going, kids. This is, moreover than anything, very likely, or probably, going to manifest as a huge boost of confidence rooted in your lived experience and power that you have actually earned and worked towards. I love that. Like, hello, what a great time of year to get a big surge of hell yeah. Especially after the soul clearing that we're gonna have here with this waning half moon in Pisces. Here this comes a few days later. That's like, I've got this, and the vibes of Jupiter trine Pluto can often be kind of like a walk softly but carry a big stick, But it also can be a don't talk, just do. In other words, I don't need to convince you that I know what I'm doing and I'm really good at it. I'm just going to do it and be really good at it, and then you're going to tell me about it later, and it's going to be great. So this is a transit. If you're seeking some courage or some confidence, this is a great time to call it in, and like I said, we're going to be able to hang out with it for a few days over the course of this week. June 3rd, Mercury enters Gemini. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, so very cozy and comfy in its home sign. As I said, Mercury is zipping through the sky, so it's literally going to spend 14 days in Gemini and then right on into Cancer. Like, I got places to be, kids. But for everybody, this is a boost in our world of communication and data exchange. Mercury and Gemini, everybody's talkative. We're thinking about stuff. We're exchanging information. We're communicating. We're teaching. We're learning. We're giving speeches, like the whole nines. It's all in there. Maybe there's some opportunities for underworld journeys as well, right? Mercury is our great psychopomp that assists us with that stuff. Very, very comfy and cozy here. So wherever Gemini shows up in your chart, that portion of your life might be getting a nice big boost. In terms of like bright ideas, wanting to talk about it, following up with those emails and text messages, etc. June 4th, Venus is conjunct the Sun, 14 degrees of Gemini. This is Venus Cazimi, aka Venus hanging out in the heart of the Sun. And we could all use a little of that. Have some love directly injected into our hearts. Sure, why not? This can be a bliss day, a lovely day of just like feeling good about life and feeling good about how things are going and just enjoying the good vibes. Anytime Venus wants to overdo something, it's going to maybe over imbibe or overspend. So, just be a little aware of that. But generally speaking, this is a day for bringing in really sweet, lovely vibes, telling people that you love them and how much you appreciate them, putting on your favorite outfit, enjoying your favorite music, all of that good stuff. Hooray. And then also, same day, we have Mercury conjunct Jupiter at 2 degrees of Gemini. And Mercury conjunct Jupiter is another powerhouse day for data exchange, information exchange. Sometimes when Mercury is conjunct Jupiter, actually I should say also that transit at the beginning of the week, Mercury conjunct Uranus, both of these transits can be times when information is suddenly released. Data is suddenly revealed. Sometimes that's more connected to our retrogrades and when the planet goes direct again. But Jupiter puts a big magnifying glass on things. It can exaggerate stuff. So Mercury and Jupiter can also be about lies and exaggerations. I don't know if there's any misinformation in the world right now, but, gosh, that might be something. But it also can put a magnifying glass on it and like, hey, I missed that the first time, but I'm seeing it this time. That kind of stuff. Okay, that's our astrology for this lunar week. Moving into the holy days of this lunar week. And we have a lot. I'm actually going to cover quite a few of our holy days for this lunar week. I know I've been kind of going back and forth between none or one or a couple, but we have quite a few that I wanted to mention just because they're cool and also because the symbolism is tied into all the stuff. Like, what have we always said on the podcast? I'm sure it's just a coincidence. So starting June 2nd, we have from our Norse friends and ancestors Sin's Day. Sin, S-Y-N, or Sin, is a goddess of defensive refusal who guards the doors of halls and shuts them against those who cannot enter. So, as we are moving through this lunar week, this could be a really great time for doing any kind of protection spells around your house, for pushing away and refusing dangers or trespassers or, people that feel like they are energies that feel like they are like trying to get in and not allowed. Also on this day, from our pagan friends and ancestors / our Babylonian friends and ancestors, we have the Shapatu of the goddess Ishtar. This is the holy day of Shapatu, the Sabbat of Ishtar. which celebrated the temple priestesses or the temple prostitutes called the Kadishtu, who partook in sacred sexual celebrations. And of course, this is very much in alignment with our Beltane season energies, our union and, interpersonal mysteries energies that we work with in this Sabbath season. Also on this day, June 2nd, we have, from our Catholic friends and ancestors, St. Elmo's Day. This saint is often confused with St. Erasmus, and over time, both saints have kind of become synonymous. They are called on for protection, specifically by sailors for protection. And this connects us to the idea of St. Elmo's fire, which is a pale, brush-like spray of electricity seen around the top of a ship's mast at night. Now, as we move into, as an aside, as we move through these last weeks of Beltane, we are going to see more and more stuff having to do with waterways, rivers, and oceans, and sailing and merchanting on in and on these waterways, and like the communion or the union between human and ship and waterway. So we see a lot of that in Gemini season. So, St. Elmo's fire, this electricity seen at the top of a ship's mast at night. Sailors who saw this on their ship believed that it was the saint's protection. So, when it's seen in the sky, it's believed that it was souls rising through the intercession of St. Elmo. Documentation of this phenomenon goes all the way back to Greece, where if one flash was seen, it was referred to as Helena, like Helen of Troy, Helena, that Helena. But if there was two, it was the twin brothers of Helena, Castor and Pollux, aka Gemini. So we have a saint that is connected to this phenomenon of lightning that was called the twins during twin season. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I'm sure the Catholics had no idea what they were doing. Sure, dude. Moving on. June 3rd, from our Yoruba friends and ancestors, we have the feast of Eshu Elegua. Eshu or Esu partially serves as an alternate name for Elegua, who is the messenger, Mercury, Hermes, right? The messenger for all of the Orishas. Elegua is also an Orisha, and he is because I hope I'm not wrong with this. I do believe that I remember that they are sometimes masculine and sometimes polygendered. I apologize if I am wrong about that. But Elegua is an Orisha, a deity of roads in the religion of Santeria, Umbanda and Kimbanda and Candomblé. He is syncretized with Saint Michael. Eshua or Esu or Elegua is always in the middle of divergent world forces. Interesting timing. He controls and regulates the two extremes, the world of happiness, joy, and fulfillment, as well as the arena of destruction, hopelessness, and sorrow. And again, his connection with roads also connects us back to Mercury, Hermes, the god of travel. Also on this day, from our Yoruba friends and ancestors, the feast of Orunmila, who is the Orisha of wisdom, knowledge, and divination. Also falling under the auspices of Mercury, Hermes, and our messenger gods. Okay. And also at this time of year, from our Yoruba friends and ancestors, we have the Yoruba New Year. And 2024 is 10,066. Yeah, some people actually have been around long enough to have counted that far back into time. So when people have their cute little, 2,000-year calendars or 5,000-year calendars, some folks have been counting this shit for over 10,000 years. Calm down. Calm down, Janet. Central Africa has you taken care of. Thank you. Okay. June 4th, from our pagan friends and ancestors, we have a feast of the Triple Goddess. This is another modern adaptation that we see. I've talked about this before on the podcast. The celebration and the observance of the Wheel of the Year and world festivals, world holidays, has really grown over the last 2 decades, and there's a boatload of websites that have information where pagans have kind of approximated dates. And, in part of me is like, if we can be historically accurate, why wouldn't we? Rah, rah, rah. Well, a lot of those websites were written before the information was available, one. And two, some of that stuff we may never have the accurate date for because of destruction and colonization and erasure. And so our best bet is to approximate a date, because it'd be better to observe it than not, in my opinion. So, you know what? Oops, we're off by 2 weeks. Oh, well, at least we did it. It's kind of my vibe on that. So, this is a concept, the triple goddess. It's a version of goddess energy that changes shape. The triple goddess idea is worked with a lot of pagans, a lot of witches, a lot of heathens, and plenty don't work with a triple goddess concept. But many of us were introduced to the goddess as a triple-faced deity. And in this festival, we're not calling on one facet, we're acknowledging that she or they have many faces. This goddess form is connected to the moon as a thing that changes, and it is, really powerful work to focus on during any of our seasonal stuff, but, any of these moments where we are watching the moon change shape and change face, all of that good stuff. Okay. Also on this day from our Slavic friends and ancestors, we have Yarila's Day. Yarila is a Slavic god of vegetation, fertility, and springtime. Hey, hello, perfect. Their name means spring or summer. Strong, furious, and loaded with youthful life force. I bet. AKA erotic energy. Yarila is a life, death, rebirth deity, and they are believed to be reborn and killed every year. Yarila also has a trickster energy and is a shape changer, again connecting us back to Mercury, ruling planet and deity of Gemini. Depicted in a white cloak with wheat and wildflower headdress, wheat in their right hand, and a skull in their left hand. And this is another thing that you're going to hear me say more and more as we get closer and closer to Litha, Sunablat, our midsummer moment, our summer solstice moment. We are going to see more and more deities and heroes and heroines and archetypes and creatures that are dressed in white, and or glowing white, like that, like it has lost all color and it's just this intense bright whiteness. More and more of a thing as we approach summer solstice for all of the northern hemisphere stuff. They are, again, as I said, wearing this crown of wheat and wildflowers, wheat in the right hand, skull in the left hand. And that imagery of wheat in the right hand, skull in the left hand also makes me think about the depiction of Virgo. Virgo, of course, ruled by Mercury. Okay. So their modern form of Yarila is connected to Green George, aka Saint George, but bearing all of the same traditional processions of villagers and all of that stuff that has been observed for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so we have these processions and various observances. The villagers would go for a walk in the country or through the villages. Something or someone would be identified as Yarilo or Yoraj. A doll will be made of straw, a man or a child adorned with green branches, a girl dressed like a man, riding on a horse. Side note, yes, we also have St. Joan of Arc's holy day during this time period. Not this week, but during this time period. Certain songs would be sung alluding to Yoraj or Yarilo's return from a distant land across the sea, aka death, the resurrection festival or celebration, and the return of spring into the world, the return of blessings, the return of fertility, the return of abundance to come. And there's this big emphasis on horses and the person riding a horse. And I don't know if you remember, but last week we mentioned that we're going to see a lot of horse energy as we move through Gemini season. There way more for me to say about that than I mean, I guess I could do a single podcast on just the horse imagery in Gemini, but I have a big piece of writing on my website in the Beltane section towards the bottom about working with Gemini and the Lover's card and all of our Gemini twin symbolism. And there's a bunch of information in there about horses, etc. So my Slavic friends, forgive my horrendous pronunciation, but one of the songs that is often sung at this time is Gidje Yara Yarilo Hodit, or Gidje Yarilo Hodit Tam Vam Polje Rodit, which means wherever Yarilo walks, there your fields give birth. And so in the midst of this festival, Yarila falls in love and marries Morana, who is a divine goddess, who we will talk about more later in the year, and their divine wedding is celebrated at summer solstice, or Litha. So we have this big festival that kicks off now and comes to a culmination at summer solstice. Okay, June 5th, from our Shinto friends and ancestors, we have the festival of Atsuta Matsuri, which is held in a 2,000-year-old shrine that holds a sacred sword. And if you go and attend this festival, you get to see all of these incredible traditional Japanese performances of archery and Shinto dance and Japanese drumming and martial arts and sumo and sword fighting and all of this incredible stuff. Swords, of course, the tarot suit that is connected to air and Gemini. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. But these folks have been performing the Atsura Matsuri at the Atsura Shrine for over 1,800 years. Is that not so incredibly dope? And on this same day, from our Celtic friends and ancestors, we have Domnas's Day. Dia Domnu is a Celt goddess of stones and coves, and she is a Fomorian goddess of the deep, aka of the underworld, and probably also of fertility, who might hold a position among the Fomorians similar to that of Danu among the Tuatha De Danann. Irish and Welsh divine and heroic groups are named after the mother, not the father. So an interesting connection there, stones and coves, but when I think of coves, I think of places where ships and boats come in and out, all of that stuff. That's where my mind goes with it. And last but not least, June 5th, from our Gnostic friends and ancestors, we have Earth Mother Day. And this is a day for giving prayers for an abundant harvest way, way out 6-ish months from now, 5-ish months from now, during Mammon season. Okay. And that brings us more or less to the end of the podcast. I just have a couple more things to mention. Tools that you can work with this week. Tarot, 9 of Swords. Boom, boom. Right there it is. 9 of Swords. One of our favorite tarot cards, if anybody is familiar with the image from the Smith-Waite deck. It is a person sitting up in bed late at night, holding their head in their hands with a rack of swords over their head. Chill, right? Who doesn't want to hang out in that situation? Everyone. And it is a card of anxiety, sorrow, confusion, kind of the vibes, right, of our waning half moon in Pisces. And the medicine or the work that we're doing in the 9 of Swords is, oh my God, my brain. And you know, we've got problems and we're trying to think our way through them. And we're trying to think our way through, and we're trying to think our way through, and we're staying up at night, and we're reading our horoscopes, and we're reading the signs, and we're reading our runes, and we're looking at the stars, and we're looking for the, you know, we're like gathering as much data, right? Back to that thing. We're gathering as much data as we can possibly get our hands on, and oh my gosh, I've got all this information. Why can't I figure this out? What am I missing? And it actually is the things that we think we don't know that is sort of sending us. That's kind of what's tilting us in the moment. And so the work that we really need to do in the of Swords is dial it the fuck back a little bit. Go to bed, stop drinking caffeine at 9 o'clock at night, put your phone down an hour before you're going to go to sleep, really say to your brain, hey, stop it. Like, pull the dog back on the leash, pull that energy back in a little bit. Do some meditation, do some deep breathing, stretch, do some box breathing. And sit with yourself and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to know it all. And at some point, I'm going to have to make a decision about some things, and I'm going to have to take action, even though I don't know it all. And I have maybe surrounded myself with too much data, and I'm overwhelmed with all the stuff that might be helping, but it isn't helping. So chill. And again, I'm saying, like, do a little meditation, do some deep breathing, do some work to clear out your mind and empty out your mind a little bit and give yourself some peace. Because it's really not going to work the other way. We kind of have to wrangle ourselves and rein it in a little bit and go, okay, I got to go to bed. I need to sleep this off. The answers may come and they might not come, but I'm going to figure it out either way. We're going to be okay. That's what's up with the Nine of Swords. I mentioned this before, but our witches work for this week. Write some poetry, make some art, take a bath, do some chanting, do some praying, and paint your toenails. And for our Pisces lunar body work, as I say every week, not a doctor of the human corpus. I am a wizard of wizardry. Okay. For our waning moon in Pisces, we are resting, relaxing, nourishing, supporting or otherwise restoring our legs, particularly our ankles and our feet. So yes, the foot massage, the pedi, is a holy act this week. Absolutely. And for our plant body work, say it with me, except for the potatoes of rebellion. We are planting our root vegetables. We're planting our tubers, all of that good stuff. This is a great time for watering and irrigating, doing any grafting or layering, taking cuttings, fertilizing, cultivating. This is a great week for cutting lumber or firewood, cutting trees for lumber and firewood, pruning our trees, doing pest and disease control for our houseplants, and, as mentioned, planting roots, trees, perennials, biennials, plowing or aerating your soil. And if there's any below ground stuff that makes sense to harvest, go ahead and do that. That works as well. Okay, that's our week. That's what we've got going on. Pretty good stuff, except for the parts that really suck. Hey, there is a lot of really horrible shit going on in the world. Not like I need to tell you that. But what I want to remind you of is your cup of sorrow is filling up. And you need to empty that out. Crying, taking a moment to mourn the state of the world is really important right now. And, as I said before, making sure that we are following that up with a hearty meal of good news, inspiration, hope. It's very important that we continue to feel our emotions as we move through this very harrowing and tumultuous time. We cannot lose our humanity, and that is 100% the goal of these terrifying forces that are in our world right now. They really, really, really want us to lose our humanity so that we become completely apathetic to these horrifying acts that they continue to commit. As long as we don't care, they can continue to get away with it. And it's super duper easy, especially on a week like this, to turn off. And I just encourage you, in whatever ways are safe and healthy for you, stay connected to the pain. Feel it. Mourn what is happening. That might bring up other stuff for you that you haven't mourned. Don't feel weird about that. Just let that happen. It's okay. And then I want you to wash your face and drink a big glass of water and rehydrate yourself. And I want you to follow it up with some real, honest to God, good news, because there are good things still happening in the world, and there will always be good things continuing to happen in the world, because these forces are dying. They're not winning. That's why they're flipping out so hard, because they know this is the end of the moment for them. This is it. This is the 2,000-year wrap-up on their bullshit. Y'all had your chance. You kind of shit the bed. We're going to move on as a group. Thank you for playing. Actually not. No thanks. And it's our job. It's our job to witness. It's our job to do everything that we can in our power that is, realistic for us as individuals to stop, but also to change the world. And where you spend time feeding yourself good information, positive information, hope, inspiration, you are actively feeding the world that you want to live in and the world that you hope to leave to your kids and, future generations. That's all. That's all. That's all we're doing. We're just literally helping end this bullshit empire crap and clear the way for whatever the next beautiful thing is that's on its way. On a quiet morning, you can hear it breathing, right? Just like that old poem. It is on its way. That's why they're fighting us so fucking hard, because it's on the way. It's already on the way. Blessed be, witches.